good YouTube? It's Miracle Squiddy back in another video. So it's the first week of the new format, and the meta is kind of unsolved. No one really knows what the best deck will be. Obviously, KASHTIRA is one of the defining values of being the best deck, but the meta is still kind of up in the air. There are a lot of decks that can compete now that KASHTIRA has been nerfed a lot more. So let's talk about some cards that I think will definitely be good, at least in the first week or two of the format, because, you know, we're starting off and things are relatively fresh. So at the top of the list is actually ERADICATOR Epidemic Virus. If you guys haven't noticed, a lot of the powerful decks nowadays play a lot of spell cards. So we have obviously KASHTIRA. They play a bundle of spell cards. Sky Striker, which got full power engage and full power multi-roll. They're also playing a plethora of spell cards. Other decks like Purely, Branded, spell cards. Again, even decks like Labyrinth as well. Furniture Labyrinth. People are expecting this deck to be clear-cut tier 1 just because of how much recursion and how much resilience the deck has. They play a lot of traps, things like Skill Drain, just all the lab traps. So if you're able to use this and resolve it, generally you're probably able to win. And it's really nice. There are a lot of decks that can easily play this. Obviously, labs contribute off any of their ladies because they have more than 2,500 attack. Even in the new Vanquish Souls, you contribute off a Vanquish Soul Heavy Borger, which is super easy. You just have to have access to Raisin, which will lead you into the Heavy Borger that can be easily special summoned. I know even KASHTIRA, you contribute things like the Raid Raptor Arsenal Falcon or like a Big Eye. So if you're playing like the Raid Raptor combo, you could definitely make like this and then set the Eradicator and have that handy. Also, even like Sky Striker, like Zeke, it has an effect where you can gain 1,000 attack as a permanent boost. So if you have some way to easily get that on the table, whether by extenders or by Hornet drones, something along that line, then you can easily tribute your own Zeke as well. And even like Magnuma being generic dragon that happens to have 2,500 attack is really easy for you guys to flip Eradicator. So I think this is a really, really powerful card that could be in a lot of people's side deck right now, going first, obviously, and is very versatile. It's very much auto win. You get to see your opponent's hand for information, and then like 3 turns are kind of pinned down by that effect. And since a lot of starters and extenders happen to be spell cards, this I think is a no-brainer. Now I want to talk about another card that's kind of older, but Ultimate Slayer. So this only saw play like the first week it was ever released, and then people kind of fell off. But I think now that the metagame is a lot more diverse, there are a lot more cards that you can send. And we actually recently got the new Tri-Brigade Arms Bucephalus 2, which you can play for the Link slot. So instead of playing the previous the Evil Twin, the twins that allow you to send the Trouble Sunny, which allowed you to send the key skill as well to send a card. Unfortunately, you would have to play the key skill in your deck, which is a brick. But with Bucephalus 2, you can actually play Garuda as well. So you get to draw a card when you send away that Link monster. And then Garuda also fills that spot for the fusion. So instead of having to play Antis, if your extra deck's especially tight, you can just play the Garuda instead. So it fills 2 purposes. One for the purpose of Bucephalus to draw a card, and the other as a fusion to draw a card. And then on top of all of that, you don't have to play any main deck bricks like the key skill Frost. And then the other cards you can send are Mirrologic Aggregator. So this is an XYZ. When it's sent to the grave, you can negate the effect of a face-up card on the field. So it's very nice against trap floodgates too. You can negate things like Skill Drain if you need it. You can also negate your own floodgates. So if you have anything face-up that you can't play under, you can just negate it until the end of the turn so you can play. And then on your opponent's turn, they can't play anymore. So that's kind of neat as well. And then the other thing is Cyframe Lord Omega, Wind Pegasus Ignister, and also Herald of the Arclight if you're playing like a ritual deck. So playing against something like a Sword Soul or like any deck that makes Baron, spits out a bunch of Synchro Omni negates, this is really, really useful. And it's also quite good potentially against Sprite because you get to get rid of like one of their Link monsters, whether that's IP, Masquerena, or like one of the Evil Twins, and then you get to draw a card off Garuda. So you can draw into more extenders and try to break the board. So I think Ultimate Slayer could be a card that you guys want to tech in. Obviously, it's unplayable against KASHTIRA because Rise Heart banishes everything, and Ultimate Slayer happens to be a cost to send. So in this scenario, it's unplayable because you wouldn't be able to activate it. So just bear that in mind. It wouldn't be good against KASHTIRA. And then let's talk about KASHTIRA. Speaking of KASHTIRA, I think FENRIR could be a good inclusion in a lot of decks because now that KASHTIRA is a lot more watered down, they're not going like full combo anymore with banishing your extra deck. A lot of times they will end on like a Shangri-La, especially in the grind game, alongside their A-Rise Heart. So if you're able to summon a FENRIR where they can't interact with it when they don't have 3 material A-Rise Heart, and they've used Shangri-La in your standby phase, what that means is you can actually overlay for a copy of your own A-Rise Heart. If you play FENRIRs and 1 copy of A-Rise Heart in your extra deck, then you're able to instantly overlay an A-Rise Heart on top of that FENRIR after you search, and then you can go to the battle phase, swing into the Shangri-La, and then main phase 2 make a Zeus and wipe the whole board for free. So you're getting like a 1-card Zeus off of FENRIR, or better yet, a 0-card Zeus because you're searching to replace that FENRIR, and then Zeus is going to be able to hit the table and then wipe everything. So it's like huge plus. Catches a lot of people off guard. This is typically the way that you could break the 5-card lock previously in the past format in the mirror match. But I think a lot of decks can take advantage of KASHTIRA, FENRIR, now that it's just like a slower, grindy metagame, and it's just generically good in a grindy metagame. And then on top of all of that, you can make an Arise Heart, you can start making Zeus's, depending on how your opponent plays with their Shangri-La. So things to think about there. This is more specifically for KASHTIRA, but Forbidden Lance, I think that this should be a card that KASHTIRA players should be playing again. There are a lot of powerful spell cards that people are playing right now in the format, like Triple Toxic Talent, Dark Ruler no more because Sprite's prevalent in the metagame. And also people are still playing Book of Moon again. Some people are citing Eclipse. Some people are citing board wipes as well. So I think Lance is a lot better now. And Sky Striker, again, is at full power, basically. So a lot of people are playing that deck, and it has everything that targets, you know, Afterburners, Widow Anchor, a lot of spell cards. So having Lance to protect against that is very important. Certain Labyrinth decks also play Skill Drain, so the Furniture Labs. So having the Forbidden Lance to pair with something like a Fenrir or an Arise Heart can easily wipe that away, or even like a Zeus, right? So you get to wipe the board. So I think Lance is an auto-include in most KASHTIRA decks if you can fit it in, again, in my personal opinion. And in the mirror match, a lot of people are citing Enemy Controller. If this is going to be the best deck, then everyone's going to be playing Econ because it's just so good in the mirror match. It's probably the single best non-engine card in the mirror match. So having Lance to guard against that, I think, is very important as well. So definitely slot Lance back into your deck, at least for the first week or so, just to see if the meta unravels. And then, like, we don't have as much rogue decks, and maybe you can take it out when KASHTIRA is on top again. Okay. NIBIRU. This one, I guess, is a no-brainer. Everyone's kind of playing it already, but I just think like a lot of KASHTIRA players are going for like heavy combos. They're not just going Arise Heart Pass. They're going for the Shangri-La plays, trying to load their board and then still have a bunch of cards in hand. So I think NIBIRU is generally good because you're able to wipe their board. I know that Arise Heart Pass is just not as strong anymore because you only have one Arise, so if you get it gone to the graveyard, then you're pretty much out of options. You know, they would have to grind heavily without a Rise Heart. So a lot of them are trying to end the game by building this huge turn 1 board. So I think NIBIRU is very clutch. It's also decent against a lot of the mid-range decks. A lot of decks are forced to summon 5 or more times in order to break your board, especially in the grind game. Even decks like Vanquish, so like a lot of times they're summoning 5 times. I've seen even Sky Strikers summoning 5 times in some combination with Rose, right? Like if they go normal summon a Ray or a Rose, that's already 1 summon, and then they have the Hayate, Kagari, Shizu, that's already 4. So if they deviate from that standard play and make something like a Zeke or like a Hornet Drones or anything along that line, even like a linkage, extra linkage activation for like a Kaina, then that's 5 summons, so you can throw a Nib token on their board. And if they don't have a multi-row or a way to clear it, that means they're locked down as well. So it's just generically good. I think right now a lot of people are playing around it, and not a lot of decks have the capacity to beat it right now. So I think at least for the first week or two, this card is definitely an auto-include in the main deck or the side deck. And then last couple of cards here we kind of already talked about in some previous videos, but I still think PHANTAZMAY is amazing right now. It's only bad against KASHTIRA. Like against Sprite, a lot of them are linking off. You can draw 2 cards, put 1 back, fix your hand, get a 2400 body on board that also threatens to swing over things that are annoying, like Sprite Orange, Sprite Red, and Sprite Carrot, and then just having like a 24 body to trade off with things like Fenrir that are in an attack position. And then against like Vanquish Soul, you're able to draw cards when they link off to the Rock of the Vanquisher. Against Sky Striker, this is amazing because you can stop targeting effects like Widow Anchor, Afterburners, in addition to drawing cards and putting a body on board that you can swing with. So it's very, very powerful. I think at least in the side deck, you guys should at least be siding a couple of copies. It's basically only bad against decks that are more XYZ based, like purely KASHTIRA, also like fusion based, like Branded. But I think against a deck that it is good against, it's very powerful and worth playing, at least for the first couple of weeks in the metagame, until it ramps up a little bit, until we get more events and we know what we're up against. And then the last card, I think Shared Ride. We already talked about this, but every deck is searching right now, and the fact that Sky Striker is actually somewhat relevant in the metagame is crazy because this card absolutely cooks Sky Striker. Like, they can't use Kagari, you get to draw a card. They use Shizuku, you get to draw a card. They use, like, Pot of Prosperity, Engage, well, not Engage, but, like, Pot of Prosperity, you get to draw a card. Anything that lets them add, even the field spell, you know, Excavating, adding 1. So Shared Ride basically is a max C against that deck. Against other decks going first, it's very, very good. It's a blanket. Against Vanquish Souls as well, they're adding a lot from their deck to hand. So chaining this to like an activation or raisin could be very devastating for them. It kind of forces them to play differently, so they can't go into Mad Love to add stuff. Against KASHTIRA, even against field spell, you get to draw a card, and then like their subsequent adding is a lot worse. So any of their monster effects, any of their Pot of Prosperities, anything along that line, I think Shared Ride deals with really efficiently. So right now, I think that this is a very, very good blanket card going first. There are other options, obviously, like Summon Limit, Anti-Spell, like yada yada, stuff like that. But I think Shared Ride is nice because it's a blanket. So there's no one card that can kind of answer it. There's no like Cosmic Cyclone. There's no like Panker Tops or anything that can pop yet. You're basically putting them under a blanket effect that allows you to recur advantage. And it's definitely a lot better in decks that play hand traps because you're able to draw into your defenses so they can't kill you. But I think overall, Shared Ride is definitely a good inclusion for going first right now in your side decks. It's just generically good. It's a blanket. It has a lot of crossover between matchups. And I just really love the card right now. So personally, I'm siding this. So yeah, that's about it all I had for this video. If you guys have any other good cards, at least for the first little bit of the metagame, now that we don't really know what's good, definitely let me know below in the comments. And other than that, we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.